Anybody would like some paper or pen? I think Kevin will give you some.
25 cents.
That can't be warehouse or business.
I'm going to use an overhead page, so I'm going to give you an overhead so you have got one here.
You need the mic.
What I'm going to speak on is the marks of a cult. Okay? In North America today, there are approximately 5,000 plus cults operating in North America. And there's a new one coming up every day. Okay? The most recent one that I know of is called the Conclave of Michael. They had a North American conference in Jasper, in Banff, a couple of years ago. They had 500 delegates to a brand new organization called the Conclave of Michael. And it was realized that this is kind of related to the Jehovah's Witnesses, the fact that they're revering the Archangel Michael. Okay? And of course, when you look at the Jehovah's Witnesses, they do the same thing. They say that Christ is actually the Archangel Michael, the created God. Okay? So there's new births of cults all the time. I personally am involved in two ministries. Besides working within the church and doing Bible studies, I'm also involved in the Christian Research Institute, which is a counter-cult organization that disperses information to people about the cults. As well as we do counseling, we do some of the programming, and we are available. Last year, our organization in Calgary, that's the Christian Research Institute in Canada, our office is in Calgary, we received almost 30,000 phone calls for help from parents whose children are involved in various things, from Satanism to witchcraft and that kind of stuff, to women. One lady I remember called and she was crying on the phone because her husband was going to divorce her or leave her if she did not join the Jehovah's Witnesses with him, because he had, at his workplace, the Jehovah's Witnesses gone to him, and he was going to. So now that meant bringing that gentleman in and talking and explaining to him what he was really getting himself into. But he decided to leave and his marriage was saved and both of them were, so this is kind of work that we get involved in. I counsel Masons who want to leave the Masonic Lodge, and I give talks around the country, and we have other people that give talks on global education and all kinds of other things. Okay? Now, here's the scenario. You have a child going to school, let's say in Toronto, University of Toronto, University of Regina, or something like that. All of a sudden, this young lady or young son begins to act differently. Does not partake anymore in family activities. Doesn't come home anymore as often. Quits attending the church with the family. And you're often wondering, what's happening? Okay, that happened to a son of a friend of mine, a fellow dentist in Calgary. His son is a scholarship student, was going to the University of Toronto. Pretty soon this was happening. I'll tell you what he was getting involved in, the Boston Church of Christ. It's a church that professes to be Christian, looks very Christian, but uses every cultic method to hold its members with fear and with all kinds of different scenarios. Okay? And this young man belongs to that group. Now, the family's lost him. It wants nothing to do with the family anymore, because that's one of the signs, or one of the things that cults want to do. They want you to relinquish your relationship with your family. If that's what they need you to do. And so this young man now is coming back to Calgary with 35 members of that cult to recruit new members on the campus of the University of Calgary. They're sending 35 members onto the campus. Okay? Now you know that in the epistles, Paul warns us about this. Warns us about discernment. Warns us not to be taken by philosophies of this earth. Okay? And warns us to test things because of these new cults. The problem lies in the fact that when there is a lack of the knowledge of Scriptures, you are fodder. You get the hay or straw for the cults. Because you don't know whether what they're telling you is true or not. It may sound very good, and it may sound so logical, but it could be absolutely wrong. And it has to be tested by the Scriptures. Now, if I laid out for you here 3 hides, one of a leopard, one of a cheetah, and one of an ocelot, and one of them is the truth, and the other 2 are false, how would you recognize them? Okay. You'd recognize them by the spots on that thing, by the marks on those hides. A fur bearer or a fur buyer will know immediately by looking at it and telling you which is which. But you know, the same thing occurs in organizations. They all have spots, okay, by which you can recognize them. Okay? And so I will proceed with the marks of a cult. Now, we know one thing, that cults prosper because of these 4 things. They prosper because of their love of darkness, because man, by nature, loves darkness over light. Okay. Spiritual immaturity. Spiritual subversion from true faith in Jesus Christ to that of another contrary to the Word of God. And intellectual pride. You know, the more complicated that a cult can make their philosophy, or whatever you want to call it, you know, the more likely that you will get involved in it, because, you know, for some reason other people, you know, the plan of salvation and the gospel is simple. It's not difficult to understand. But because of intellectual pride, people think, boy, there's got to be more than that to it. You know,